are focusing on just learning how to use law of cosines. So let me walk you through how to use these formulas. Okay, so you have two sets of formulas right here. They all are the same formula. Actually, they're just rearranged for easier solving, okay? So the left-hand side of standard form, that is reserved for when you are looking for the length of a side. So if you are looking for a missing side length, I want you to use the format of standard form. So if you are looking for a missing side length, I need you to use the standard form of the equation. Now, when you do use this format, I want you to notice that when you plug in all the values into this equation right here, okay, and you hit enter on your calculator, the answer you get is the value squared of the side. It is a squared, all right? So if I'm asking you to find the length of A, whatever the answer is that you got here, you are going to need to square root it because the answer is the answer for A squared. So what I need you to do here on this side is remind yourself, do not or don't forget to square root the answer you get when you use these equations. So I'm going to put a big square root right here as a symbol and darken it just to remind me. Once I get my answer, when I just type it out in the calculator and I hit enter, that answer needs to be square rooted in order for A squared to be converted to A. All right? Does that make sense? Everybody good?
Do I put the entire thing into it?
Yes.
Like
just type it straight out.
Okay, like with the root? Or do you put the root in after?
I tell students to do it afterwards because it's less typing and less you're especially with the graphing calculator, since you can just copy paste your previous answer, do it afterwards. So it's one less thing, one less parentheses that you're seeing to confuse you. Yeah. But if you do it all in one shot, it works. I just see people, I tend to be more careless. So, all right. Now the alternative form, this one, once you kind of rearrange this equation into this format, this is what you use when you are looking for the missing angle. Okay? So if you are looking for a specific missing angle measurement, you are going to resort to using the alternative form. Okay? Now, just like the ones on the left-hand side, there is an extra step that I need you to make sure you do, okay? Because since you're looking for a missing angle, you are actually trying to solve for, instance, in this problem, you're trying to isolate capital A, you're trying to isolate capital B and capital C. And right now, with the way the equation is set up, if I type this into the calculator with the numerical values and I hit enter, the answer that I get is actually cosine A. So what I need to remind you guys here is, just like what you guys did with law of sines, when you guys worked on the ambiguous case, in order to isolate your A, you will need to move, and I know the word is not really move, but visually, we in essence are taking the inverse cosine on both sides, so that cosine will disappear. And what you're going to do is whatever the answer you get here, you're taking the cosine inverse of that answer to get A isolated. So just remember from last semester, anytime you are solving for an angle, you are always using the inverse trig functions, whether it is cosine inverse, sine inverse, tan inverse. But since we're working with law of sines and law of cosines, all you're doing is using sine inverse and cosine inverse. So please do not forget to take the inverse on these problems. So here, don't forget to take the inverse. Okay. So we will Now proceed to see how you work these out, okay? Now, a very good question that was asked before. What do I do when my vertices are not the letters A, B, C? Because these formulas seem to confuse me, okay? So what I told students, notice that there is a pattern happening with these letters. So if I just focus on one formula here, because, you know, when you guys do your work, you're going to notice that you have more than one letter. So notice that if I'm solving for side A, the other two sides are the ones that are being added and squared. So let's say the letters were Q, R, and S. If this is Q squared, then this has to be R squared and S squared. Or if this is R squared, then this has to be the Q and the S. Or if this is, you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? So whatever this letter is, these letters are going to be the other two that were given to you. So just use the pattern. And then it's minus 2 times 2 letters. Well, the 2 letters have to be whatever the letters you had here. And then the angle left over is always matching the paired angle over here with at the front. So it starts with A, ends with capital A, starts with little b, ends with capital B, and so forth. So don't worry about the letters, look at the pattern. And another pattern over here, I tell students, notice that the 2 numbers you choose here in the numerator have to be the 2 numbers down here in the denominator. Okay? And that helps because, and why am I telling you guys this? Because you're going to see how easy these are. And because they're so easy, students rush and they make silly mistakes. Y'all tend to be slower on law of sines because you're trying to be more careful, but law of cosines you tend to rush because it's easy. All right? So watch for the patterns and just be careful. Okay? All right. So here's how we work this out. Just like in previous ones, whenever you're solving visually, I know I need to solve my oblique triangle, so I have 3 capital letters and 3 lowercase letters. And you are going to substitute what you do know. So I have 3 numbers. Tell me where the number 17 is going to go.
C.
17 goes to C. Very good. So remember, it's always going to be across from your given angle. Okay. Where is 21 going?
A.
21 is A. And therefore, the last one has to be B. So they always have to be diagonal to your angle. Okay, so just like in law of sines, 3 things will be given to you, 3 things will be missing. So notice in this scenario, you were given an S, you were given an S, and you were given an S. And because you were given 3 S's, we know that as far as classifying, 3 S's means that we have the green light to use law of cosines. Okay. 3 S's means use law of cosines to solve this problem. Okay. And you'll always have a 50-50 chance. So I tell students, even if you don't know how to do classification, try one. And if it's not working, then it has to be the other one because it's only law of sines and law of cosines. So solving for the angle, it doesn't matter which one you choose first. We'll just do it alphabetically. Let's start with angle A. So capital A in our formulas is going to be asking us to use these. Capital A is right over here. So we're using that first formula. And we remember that we cannot forget to take the inverse. So if you would like to follow along, capital A is found by taking the cosine inverse of that big fraction. All you're going to do is substitute the values that have been given to you. So b squared plus c squared, which would be 17 squared, minus my a squared, which is the remaining number, and then divided by 2 open parentheses. Remember I told you whatever those 2 numbers are, they're going to be identical. So those 2 numbers, I will just write them downstairs. And once you have written all of that down, you will merely just type away. So if you have your calculator, just do the cosine inverse first, and then do the alpha y equals next, right off the bat, so that it causes that fraction situation to be ready for you to do your typing. And just type exactly what you have written on your paper. Where's my squared button? 14 squared. And you can put times or parentheses, whichever you prefer. And we're still going to round to 2 decimal places, but please make sure you are reading the delta math so that you round correctly when you guys are doing it, since it changes, okay? So 84.69 or 70, which one's it going to be? 70 is correct. So 84.70 degrees. And don't forget your little degree symbol. So I found one angle, and I can now proceed to find angle B. So I'm going to have you guys find angle B on your own using law of cosines. So go ahead and do that. Okay, so if you have already finished, you can look up. So again, just repeating again, all you're doing is copying exactly what you just did, looking for the patterns to repeat itself. And in this case, you get 41.59. Okay.
What did you round it? So 41.60.
Good question. So the 9, you look over to the right, and the 1 is less than 5. So that was why you stay there. All right, so some students choose to do law of cosines all over again. My personal preference is I already have 2 angles, so I'm not going to do that entire typing because I'm lazy. But just know that if you choose to do law of cosines all over again, it works, okay? But personally, I'm just going to do 180 degrees minus the sum of the other 2, since I already know that that simple subtraction will yield the answer that I need for angle C. Okay, so in that case, that will end up being 5371, and I have solved the triangle for what was missing. Okay. Are we okay with law of cosines for side classification? Pretty straightforward. I had a student also ask, Ms. Hanlon, after I get this angle, can I use law of sines to find angle B? Since I prefer law of sines, you can. You can totally do that as well. Okay, so that's another option if you would like. Personally, I'm just like, if I'm going to use law of cosines, I'm just going to use it all the time. But know that you can do that. Okay, so let us finish off this last problem and then let you guys get to work, okay? So again, lastly, let's do our little rubric organizer here on the side. A, B, C, lowercase a, B, and C. All right, go ahead and take a second and fill in what you've got. Alrighty, so yours should match up like what I have written. Okay, so again, 3 givens, 3 unknowns. And in this case, they gave us an angle, a side, and a side, okay? So here's a perfect situation to show you guys when you guys get some mixed problems, okay? So when it comes to classification, you have had 2 classifications that involve the SSA combination. You either have SSA or you have SAS. The SSA is the law of signs problem where it's the ambiguous scenario, and the SAS is today's law of cosine scenario. Okay, so look out for situations like that when you guys get problems where I'm not telling you which law to use. You have to look at your picture to determine which one is it going to be. Okay, so looking at your picture, if it's provided, if not, you draw your own picture. Is this an SSA or an SAS problem?
SAS.
Very good. My angle is trapped in between my 2 sides. My angle is trapped in between, so I know it's going to be an SAS. It's not that ambiguous situation. So green light for law of cosines, okay? So look out for that. Okay, so what do you guys need to solve for? Capital B, capital C, lowercase a. What are you going to solve for first?
Uppercase B.
Okay, so uppercase B, maybe. Let's see. So uppercase B, what am I doing here? Uppercase B needs, in order to fulfill it, if we look at our formula, we need, right?
So you have to do A first.
All right. So we have to do A first. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. So in order to find capital letters, we need all of the lowercase letters. So yes. So which one are you going to find? Capital B or capital C? Which one do y'all want? B sounds good. B, because we already have lowercase b, so go for the B. Okay? So looking for capital B. No, sorry. We said we have to find all the lowercase a. My bad. I just said what I said, and then I went and undid what I said.
I was like,
We cannot find the capital letters because we do not have all the lowercase letters. So let's go find lowercase a. There. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. All right, so a squared equals. So if we have a squared, we need b squared and c squared. So here's b squared plus c squared. So just plug it into your formula. And then the cosine of the angle of the letter that you started out with. So if I started with A, this better be angle A, which it is. Okay. So based on the notes that we provided at the beginning of class, remember that when you enter that into the calculator, to not forget to square root. Okay. So go ahead and type that out just as you see it into the calculator, all in one shot. Okay. Okay. So the answer you initially get, 451, is the a squared value. So again, don't forget to square root, go back, arrow up. If you're using your phone, tap it. You do not want to type rounded answers. Always use all answers and round at the very end, okay? And our A value ends up being 21 point, am I doing 25 or 26?
26.
26. Okay. Okay. So now that we have all the A's, B's, and C's, we can go do what I was trying to do earlier and realized I was making a mistake. We can now go find angle B, and we're choosing angle B first instead of angle C, just no mere reason, but for alphabetical purposes. But no, you can start with either or, okay? So angle B is going to be the cosine inverse, again, because on alternative form, you always do the inverses of the whatever the fraction value are. Again, notice that the two numbers that were mentioned upstairs are the two numbers downstairs. Ah, that's right. Thank you. Okay. All right. What answer are you guys getting for B?
39.73.
Yeah. 39.73 is correct. And then angle C again, 180 minus those two. And I'm not going to insult your intelligence. You guys know how to do that. Okay. All right. So are there any questions on how to do law of cosines?
Not currently.
Not currently. That's fair. Okay. Well, the remaining time is yours, my dears. We are done. Let me know